Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. This is the evening session of the third weekend of the Global Empowerment Summit. I'm here with my new guest, Judith, and I'm so excited to talk to her. First time joining the summit, and she's bringing a tremendous amount of value to us by sharing her perspective on leadership. I'm so excited looking forward to our conversation. And for the audience out there, guys, please keep on playing with the games that we have for you. We already put extra 5 questions into the quiz game, so make sure that you are joining in and that you are logging in with your email address and collecting those points week by week, and we will announce the winners very, very soon. And also, don't forget, this Sunday we have 2 other masterclasses, one about leadership and the other one is keynote speaking. If you're interested in the topic, please tune in. And we have also a networking session coming up with quiz games, quiz night on Sunday, to get to know each other and have fun and play. And here we go with Judith. I'm so happy to see you here after a long work day, right? We all have this. How are you, Judith? How have you been?
Oh, I'm great, thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Good to have you here. And until we warm up, maybe the best thing to start with is to introduce yourself. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your personal background, your professional background, so that people can get to know you a little bit.
Gosh, that sounds like everything. What should
Like just like that, jump right into it.
Well, what can I say? I'm an author. Also a consultant trainer, a C-suite mentor, an entrepreneurial mentor as well. I help create clear thinking and decisive leaders. What else do you want to know? I am completely passionate about leadership. So much so, I've written a book called The Maverick Paradox, The Secret Power Behind Successful Leaders. I have a podcast, which is in the top 2.5% global most popular podcasts, called The Maverick Paradox Podcast. And I have a magazine called The Maverick Paradox Magazine. You can see the theme going there, which is ranked as hash 63 most best sort of magazine on leadership to follow in 2022.
Amazing, amazing. But again, you just like everyone else. I always tell this to everyone. Always about profession, something about personal. What do you like to do in your free time? What's your favorite food? Tell us about Judith herself.
I am a serious, absolute serious Star Trek geek. I watched all the Trek and I watched multiple. Voyager is my favourite, and I must have watched the whole Voyager, all 7 seasons. I don't know, 10 times, 20 times. I don't know. I'm so bad that people could be talking and I'll be going, oh yeah, that sounds like such an episode.
So nice. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. And let's explore your topic, because I have your topic here with me and I would like to bring it up so that people also see the topic of our conversation, what we will talk about in the next 25 minutes. So it's amplify your influence. Amplifying your influence. It's such an interesting topic. So why did you choose this topic, and where would you say the influence or the importance of this topic is?
Okay, so for me, I believe that leadership is all about influence. If you're not influencing, you're not leading, and you can't lead without influence. And I found that when I was mentoring the C-suite and senior leaders, and in fact, even when I was doing training with leadership teams, the thing that they were more concerned about was influencing, because they were having decent impact, but they couldn't get things through. And that tended to be that they could influence those that they manage. Sometimes they could influence those above, but when it became their peers and they have to work across silos, they weren't getting anywhere. And it's a very common thread, especially now when things are become more flatter organizations. So people are required to lead without authority. And I think over time, people have relied on the fact that they're the director of, or they're responsible for this. But now they're working across projects with other people's teams. And it's really hard. You can't just use your positional authority to get things done. And that's where people are now struggling.
And it brought the thought to my mind about respect, because I was first experiencing the decline of respect when I was trying to teach some young chaps and young guys and kids to dance, and they are actually looking at you, and they are in front of you, and then they are like, there's a mistake, there's a mistake, there's a mistake, and they come in front of you and they try to put you in a situation where I remember I couldn't question my teachers back then, because the respect was so much higher, or the feeling of giving respect, or the expectation of giving respect. So what do you think about this one?
I think work has become very informal, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but what has happened is people have learnt, people treat each other at work as if they were a bunch of friends. So they have inappropriate jokes, they go whatever, I've forgotten that there is even in an informal workplace, there's a formality that needs to come through. And I think it's not helped by leaders, because sometimes even senior leaders, they just don't have leadership presence. They don't act as leaders. They just seem to fade into the background, and that causes people to not treat them with the respect that they should be, because they're so used to falling on that kind of positional authority, that they think they can just walk in and go, right, you need to do this, and people are like, no. And we have to remember as well that within the next couple of years, we're going to have about 75% of the workforce will be Generation Z and late millennials. And the other percentage, a high percentage of the workforce, is also going to be menopausal women. So, you're going to have to change the way you lead, to change the way you talk to people, because these populations are quite different from what was there before.
Yeah, exactly. I think the next generation, especially Gen Z, is the one who is telling their opinion, no matter what it takes. Like, you cannot really direct them and tell them do this, because there will be always a because or a but or a what if, because they are questioning kind of things. They're curious. They have their own ways, right?
And to be honest, I love that, because because that's the way that, so I define mavericks as willfully independent people, and mavericks have behaved in that way from the beginning. And I remember years ago talking and writing about the fact that this millennials, these to be called Generation Y, will be so large in its populace, they will be acting like mavericks, and you need to wake up and start learning how to lead mavericks, or lead those that act and behave like mavericks. And that's exactly where we are right now. And that's why there's a struggle, because it's not the same, And I think if we've raised these individuals to work as teams, to unfortunately to conform quite a lot, now we're put in a situation where they can't necessarily, call in, ask their dad what to do. They are more frightened and concerned, and quite often these, especially like millennials, aren't hiring people who know more than they know, right? So with all the recession and COVID, a lot of senior people have left. These managers are unable to do what they need to do, but don't have the seniority to ask other people that are there, and then frightened to hire that in because they feel that they might lose their own positional authority.
Love that, the respect. I mean, all the aspects and the perspectives that you're using, I just love them. I always think that we have to be MacGyvers, and we have to be all these kind of inventors and new things, and breaking barriers and opening doors and all these kind of things. But where does this all start? Like, some people have influence, some people doesn't have. Is it starting when they are kids, or is it just fading while they are growing up, or where is the balance going away?
Oh, that's such a cool question. You know what? I think influence begins when you suddenly realize that people are listening to what you're doing, right? And I think that can start in childhood. I was always that individual, for example, where even if I didn't say I wanted to do anything particular, people would decide what games I'm playing, and they'd look at me and go, what do you think? And I'd be like, I don't know. And after a while, you suddenly realise actually people paying attention to what you're saying. And then it goes by. So when you have that confidence, you then seek out things where you can influence, and then people notice that and give that to you. That's what I mean. So I think it's you have to step out your comfort zone, but you also need to have the right level of competence and compassion to influence, because influencing is not the same as manipulating. When you're manipulating, you are using some form of coercion.
You know what came to my mind? The kid that is doing something to crying because they want the parents to give them something, and then when they get the thing, then immediately there is no crying, there is nothing behind.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes I think parents think, oh, okay, that's just the way it is. But what they do is then allow that individual to grow up thinking that's the way it is. And then when they reach somebody who has more power than them, they don't know how to cope with it. And then you can see the meltdowns in the office where people go, I can't believe you're not doing this. It's like, yes, because you've not learnt to influence. You've always used some sort of coercion.
Oh, I love it, love it. So what's the difference between influence and manipulation? Let's just set it straight, because sometimes it's mixing up out there. So not everyone knows the difference.
If you're manipulating someone, you are doing it for your own good. You want something, so you will make sure you get it. So you'll be using some form of coercion, even if that is supposedly benign. So you might not be using physical force or verbal force, but you might be trying to use emotional blackmail, for example. If you're influencing, you're starting from the perspective of, yeah, I want this, but they want that. So how can I give them that so they want to do this? So it's much more, I want them to win too. Because if I just win, then that's not good. I want them to win as well. So influencing tends to have a much more a much better intention. So if you think about two salesmen, so you can have one salesman that wants you to buy his car at whatever cost, whether you can afford it or whatever. So they might know you can't afford it, but they'll just tell you to go and get a loan out or go ask, your parents to give you the money. Whereas someone who's influencing would say, you know what, probably you want this cheaper car. So they'll walk away from their bigger commission because they know the other persons aren't going to win.
Love the explanation, and it's always good to set the definition straight. So now we know what is manipulation, we know what is influence, and we know how good it is when people can influence, and we also know that it's also originated back in childhood when you first try to experience it, and you first try to figure it out as, oh, someone is listening to me, so that I have an influence, and you recognize and you are aware, right?
Yeah. But you can learn how to influence. I spend a lot of time mentoring leaders and doing group training on how you can amplify that influence, how you can make it happen. I think for some people, when they say, oh, it's natural, it's because they started young. So of course it becomes natural because they're good at it. But if you don't have influence, you can gain influence.
So what are the steps? Like, what are the basic things? I don't want you to tell, or your secrets, but somehow the little steps that normal people can just adjust and implement, for example, in their own lives, so that can gain a little bit or experience what influence is.
Okay, so I think influence comes under four main categories. So capability is one. How capable are you to do this thing? Decisiveness, how are you making decisions? Right, that when power, your utilization of power. So how do you use power and what's the impact? So I think you need those four things enables influence to happen. And your other part of the question was, how does somebody go around doing it? Okay, so first of all, you need to be good at what you're doing. Right? It's hard to influence if you're rubbish at your job. So get capable, but also look to see what else influences your role and learn how to do that too. Right, so you need to, so it's no good just being an expert in your job. You need to look a bit broader around that as well. The other thing is I talk about like the 6 decisions that leaders make. So they decide to be determined. right? So I call it driven. So they decide to be determined. I will get this thing done. Reputation is the R. So they look at how they build a reputation. Reputation comes from your ability to do something, your character, your intention, your track record. Influencing is very obvious. The V is for versatility. How versatile are you? So if someone's very dogmatic, they're not going to be able to influence anybody. This is not about going against your principles or your purpose. It's being able to flex when you need to. The E is about execution. A lot of managers, a lot of leaders decide to implement and not execute. And the difference between that is that they could have a strategy and they make sure that strategy is implemented, but the outcome is not what they intended. So I would say that's a poor execution. So execution is making sure that you're actually implementing the thing that you decided to do and it fits the purpose of why you decided to do it in the first place. And the last one is narration. And if you can't narrate, if you can't storytell, if you can't take that vision and make it real, make people want it, thirst for it, you're not going to be able to influence, because all great influencers tell the story. That's one of the things I always talk about when I'm training or whatever, is like, what's the story? Tell the story that gets people on. Another way of looking at things as well is the power. So if you're using positional authority, i.e. I'm the boss, do what I say, that's not going to work. So you need to look at what sort of things that you have. Are you emotionally aware? Do you understand body language? You've got to use the whole power frame. And the last one, the impact, is fairly obvious. Are you getting the results that you want to get? Sorry, it's a bit long-winded, that. Sorry.
No, good. I love the abbreviation driven, so we can stick to that and people can remember what are the letters of this beautiful anagram. I think it's great to put it this way. And then one point that was standing out for me is the execution part, because we talked about implementation, we talked about the transformation, but what is between the implementation and the transformation is the execution and the follow-up and everything that is coming with it. So super important point that you just mentioned here. Also, I would like to explore a little bit more on this. Okay, we are a leader in an organization. We would like to change. We realize that we don't really have influence, so no one is listening to us when we are talking in front of the people. So what do we do? Do we shout, or how do we actually, like, with all our intentions, how do we change from one moment to the other so that people can listen to us?
You know, it's a really great question. And I recently did a poll on LinkedIn to ask what would make you more influential. And 55% of people said actually it's better relationships, better key relationships with people. And I think when people are trying to influence, they forget that they need others to amplify that as well. So there's a great video on YouTube called First Follower, if anybody wants to grab it. And what it demonstrates is there's a music festival. One guy gets up and does some these really weird, geeky dancing, and everyone's just looking at him like, you're crazy. This other guy jumps up, they're not together, and he sees him, and then he starts copying, and he starts dancing, and he starts calling out his friends, and before you know it, everybody's getting up and running down to join. And the person who's influencer is the first follower, isn't the person stood up first. And I think as leaders, we are all first followers, okay? The organization has told us, this is the vision, this is the strategy, or this is the change program. And we as first followers, we show everybody else how to dance. Yeah, that's how influencers are saying, this is what we do to make this happen. So there's that role modeling element of it. And it's that authenticity, you know. And I think people can forget that. You need other people. You need to know what you're doing. You need to have authenticity. And also, it's no point in being this ineffectual person and then suddenly go, oh, I'm going to influence people. People aren't going to pay attention. It's not on the day you need the influence that people pay attention. It's all the other days. You know, it's all the other days. What are your networks like? How well networked are you? Do you network with people because you want something from them? Or do you network people because you're interested in people? Because if it's the second one, when you need something, those people are real, live, engaged people in your network, not dead contacts that go, what do you want? You know, you only call me when you want something.
I already got me at the dancing example because so that's
Oh
what I
yeah,
relate to it so much. So it's just something that I was like, yeah, actually it happens because I always see people, they are very they are afraid to start, but when there is already one person, two-person on the dance floor, then the third person joining in and it's starting a chain reaction. So it's exactly what you see, that it's the common effort of making it happen and the common effort of influencing each other what makes the change. And
I
it's
find
crazy.
that, yeah, you're totally right. And one of the key things is that stakeholder leadership. And I stress on the leadership. A lot of people have done stakeholder management, which I think is a very passive thing. I'm going to manage these people to do what I want. Sounds more like manipulation, right? Where leadership is about, how do I get them to follow? So what is it that they want? How do I get that? And how do I then align it? So what do you want? This is what I want. Here's the bridge. Here's the aligning piece. Can we walk this bridge together? You know, and I find that when I work with people and we go through the different stages of how on earth that you do stakeholder leadership, it makes a huge difference.
So now we are getting to your unique methodology, and we had here Veronica of Sue, and she was telling about the importance of putting together a very nice online course and putting yourself in it, putting your brand in it. So what do you say on your side? What is your differentiator with the Maverick methodology, with the book what you wrote, with the things that you are standing up to? What is that secret formula here that is different from everything else, and you would say it makes you somewhat unique in what you do?
Okay. Well, I'm all about, as I said, creating clear thinking, decisive leaders. What makes Maverick leadership different, the principles of Maverick leadership, is, if you can imagine, leadership over the years has been, if I can follow some unique formula, I can get people to do stuff. Can you see where I'm going? I think that's ridiculous because it doesn't look at you, the individual, and what you bring. So I don't see leadership as this leadership cloak that you suddenly put on when you get to the workplace. It's the underwear that you leap out of bed and you put on, you know, because it's so you. It's part of who you are and what you do. So that's what Maverick leadership is. We're looking at you, the individual. What do you bring, and what do you do? So if you think about it, you've got, everybody has a leadership culture. So that's the things that are uniquely me. So my ethnicity, my gender, my values, my principles, and all these kind of things. And then when I go to work and I meet another person, we now have a collective leadership culture. And that's things like, how do we see risk? How do we empower other people? And all this sort of stuff. So what's unique about what I do and the Maverick leadership thing is that we look at, how do you think in a way that is different? And then you can apply it, you can demonstrate it so that you have great execution. But it's done from a basis that everybody will win, which is about influencing, aligning, not manipulating. And it looks at making things, because it's clear thinking, so it's objective. So it's taking the emotion out of decisions, treating people with empathy, utilizing passion, and taking that, your unique leadership identity, forward into everything you do. Because leadership is not work. Leadership is now, you know, whether you're at home, walking down the road, you know, it's wherever you impact on something, you're leading. So you should decide to do it. So do it intentionally rather than unintentionally.
I mean, all the points are so important. I will definitely listen to this conversation again, because what you brought into this conversation about leadership, it's about how people need to not to look at static things, but rather see it as a fluid thing that is always with us in every part of our life, right?
Yeah, it's that, I call it pathological curiosity, Right. So if you want to be innovative, and every leader has to be innovative, right? You need loads of data points. So you need to be curious about everything. So that's how you get to bring up something new. So I talk about our things around strategizing, innovating, and executing. Right. So clear thinking on what the strategy is. Recognize that you're a sat nav. Right. So you will reach the destination. If there's a challenge, you're going to reroute. Where a lot of people stop and go, oh, I can't do this. Whereas you go, nope, rerouting, still going to get there. Once you've got the strategy, you need to innovate. How can you innovate if you're not curious, if you don't know what that department is doing or what's important to them or what the legislation is going to bring? So you've got to be able to see all these deep data points and innovate from that. And then you need to execute. So it's no good having a strategy that's implemented that has this horrible fallout, whether that fallout is burnt out staff, money lost or whatever. So you have to constantly make sure you're executing so that the output that you're getting is better than the outcome, if that makes sense. So yeah, so that's a different way of looking at things from a heartfelt, compassionate, working for the greater good principle.
Love this principle, and also I just support you in whatever you say, because I think we are very aligned on this. We need action takers, we need executors, we need all the people who can make this, who can walk the talk, and who can really like stand up and make this happen actually, and think about different ways. I'm like always like so pissed off, I have to say, by people coming to me, selling me services and telling me things that I already heard 100 times. And I'm telling them, okay, I will work with someone who is coming to me with a totally new idea, because if 100 people already did it, then why would I hire someone who can do the same thing for me? I mean, there is no value in that, to do 100% the same thing like everyone is doing on the market. So if you are a specialist, you need to bring me something that is different, right?
That's right, because the first question is, what do you want? Right? Most people start off with, what have you tried? That's a wholly inappropriate question. What is it that you want? What are the things that are getting to this point? And then you say, right. So the Maverick leadership stuff is a load of questions, constant questions. What happens if this? What happens with that? How does that link with that? And then the solution just comes like this, because all the effort's in the questions, and because you've done all the other stuff, the solution's pretty quick. So I'm not interested in what you tried and did it fail right away. I'm more interested in, what do you want and why are you not getting that? And how does all these other things link together? All right, let's try this. And the difference, I suppose, is every solution is unique, because every problem is unique. And people say, oh, it's not a problem, they're all the same. That's rubbish. There's lots of different variables, from the actual environment, the different people's skill sets. There's variables. And whilst you might say everybody needs to have a certain thing, every leader needs to do stakeholder leadership, yes. However, how that plays out is going to be different, and you need to ask the questions. You can't go, oh, I have a module on stakeholder leadership, that would be great. Because if you're not adjusting it to the actual real problem, then you're not solving anything. So I'm very much a bespoker on the work that we do. Is I don't have a templated thing, because you're not a template. Okay, I've just lost sound, so I can't hear you now.
Oh, yes. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I mute myself because of background noise, and I don't come back. So I was just saying that, yeah, it's so important that we are adapting our leadership and our style according to our environment and to the people we are working with. And that's just something that should be like really the base when you are starting to experiment with leadership, to really look around and think, okay, these are the people, this is what works, and that's not working, so don't try that.
Leadership is personal, right? And people forget that. It's personal to the person you're leading. What you do is personal, it affects them. But but it's personal to you too, because you're bringing your whole self into that relationship, into that situation, or at least you should be. So whenever somebody says it's not personal, it's business, what they mean is whatever this thing is has no impact on me whatsoever, so I don't really care. So when somebody says it's just business, it's not personal, that's what they're saying. You don't matter because I'm not affected. Whereas I turn around and say leadership is personal. Every time you do something, it's affecting somebody, and there's a personal consequence, good or bad, to the individual. And if you're not personifying your own leadership, you're not leading. Yeah.
Well, I'm impressed. Thank you so much for all the different opinions, the different perspective again, Maverick leadership. So where can people reach out to you, and who exactly you are working with? Tell us a little bit about that before we are finishing the conversation.
Okay, I do mentor and consult with entrepreneurs, the C-suite, also senior leaders and leadership teams. Very soon, I'm going to have an Amplify Your Influence scorecard for you to check yourself. So if you want the wait list, just email Judith at maverickparadox.com. And if you want to see the website, it's maverickparadox.co.uk.
Thank you so much for sharing it. And I think you are also on LinkedIn, right? If people would like to reach out to you, then they can find you there too.
Yeah, GERMAIN, and do.
We will do that. I will definitely connect you with people, and thank you so much for sharing all this tonight, and for spending your after work tiredness with us, and still coming so energized and sharing about your passion. Thank you so much, Judith, for being on board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, so here we are. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Judith, and we also have someone else who I'm waiting for still. So let's see whether she can make it. If she is not making it, then I will just lead you through again what is coming up this weekend, and I will also tell you about the next two interviews. So we will have vulnerability with Carl, and also Jürgen will come up with compassionate, caring leaders. So all about the topics today and around leadership, I think it was about being unique. It is about being yourself. It's about being somewhat different than others, and it's also caring about the people and who are around you. So I will thank for all of the people who are watching us. If you're watching this later, don't forget there are points to collect. Please make sure that you are going on our game website, and the game website, it's displayed below. So just have to click on the link, join in, answer questions. Every Friday and Saturday we are adding 5 more questions into the quiz, and on the 27th of November we will be announcing the winners of the leaderboard already at the end of this week. So I will show you a little bit of sneak peek into the leaderboard so that you can see who is leading and who needs to catch up. And we are also having a quiz night this weekend. All has been sponsored by Giants and Titans and Shiv, one of our impact hubbers, who is searching for people on board to get stakes in this amazing company, amazing initiative that he has to educate people through simple tools, simple quizzes, simple rapid fire questions. Some kind of, if you remember the Slumdog Millionaire feeling of this movie that was coming up when people can win big amount of money. So something similar system, which is very easy to use. It's available for everyone, and it can still make an event, a workshop, a webinar, or even a summit like this very entertaining. And it can be part of the education, but it can be also part of the fun. So thank you so much for watching us, guys. As I'm waiting for the speaker to come up, I will also play one of the videos that are very dear to me. You can meet Jai and Charm this weekend for the keynote speaking masterclasses. You can still upgrade if you want, and you can join in this Sunday afternoon Singapore time for a nice 2 hours masterclass with them. And we will have also Piero here. Piero will speak about leadership, so I'm quite excited. Let's play the video and then see you after.
Hi there, I'm Jai Narayan. Now, why should you join the Global Empowerment Summit 2022 this year? Because, as they say, the human mind, once stretched with new experiences and learning, never regains its original dimensions. So come, join us, stretch your hands, stretch your legs, and most importantly, stretch your minds. I'm going to be there. I will hope to see you too. Bye for now.
So I'm quite excited about having this masterclass, and if you have been already participating in masterclasses, you know that we have different topics, 2 masterclasses every week, and we already had startup pitching, we had online course creation, and we had many interesting topics. I will just bring them up one more time so that you can see what you can be part of. All right, so super excited. I really don't know whether the next speaker will be able to come and join us. If she cannot join in, I will just log out of the studio and we will meet very soon, because I believe we have a new guest, the next guest at 8:30 coming up. This will be Carl. So I would ask you to stay tuned, stay with us until this is happening, and Carl will be with us, and Jürgen will be joining in. And then we have an exciting panel discussion. For today's interviews and for the speakers, I'm really thankful. Thank you so much for joining us. We had an amazing morning with Harry, and it was all about leadership in a different way. Like, we were talking about mental health at work. We were talking with Isabella about legacy as a leader. We were talking about treating your interviews as a first rate. I really would advise you to rewatch that session with Kima Rahman. We were bringing up sustainability in leadership and how we can create a sustainable world. We were talking about rediscovering yourself after a while, when you need some rejuvenation, when you need to restart and focus inwards instead of being always out. And then we also had Mr. Ang from Sungei Wang here, who was talking about different approach of following the trends and fitting in by creating something new and creating a community approach. We also had Yuki from the Women in Tech Malaysia chapter, and who is also a startup founder in a very interesting field of Bitcoin blockchain technology, and very amazing work that she's doing. And we had Rashmi here talking about leadership and managerial styles. So quite exciting. And Judith was just finishing with, again, an interesting topic, which was about maverick leadership and how actually you can put this drive into action, and how you can become a better leader by not just implementing, but by executing what you have in plan and aligning it with the purpose. Thank you, all of you. And I will see you in around 20 minutes. I think that will be the time when I will be again in the studio, already with Carl on my side. And we will continue the evening with 3 more sessions tonight. Hope you can enjoy and have an amazing evening. And if you're watching it later, then just put your questions into the comments. Thank you, guys. Goodbye. See you later.